What is up, freaks? It's your boy Marty Bent here to introduce this episode of Rabbit Hole Recap. Matt and I just had a very high-quality rip. Very excited for you guys to listen to it. Had a banana daiquiri delivered to me around 52 minutes in, so extended the episode a little bit above an hour. I hope you guys enjoy it. You'll hear about it in the episode, but I also need to mention it here. This episode is brought to you by our good friends Unchained Capital, who have a security-first mindset when it comes to Bitcoin financial services. Matt and I actually hopped on a demo call with the Unchained team today so that they could walk us through their newest update of Caravan, which should be pushed live next week. They're making huge advances in the space, freaks, particularly around multi-sig. Caravan, if you guys don't know already, is their open source desktop app for multi-sig quorums. If you want to create a multi-sig without a third party and you just want to do it between yourself and parties that you know intimately, Caravan is there to help you out. And Caravan, is about to take a step up. Instead of creating multi-sigs with single addresses, they're going to allow you to start dumping xpubs into Caravan so that you can create multi-sigs with multiple addresses in the same xpub. Really, really sleek design. Again, Matt and I were walked through it earlier this afternoon. I'm very excited for it to hit the market and for people to start playing around with it, and for the open source community to start maybe standardizing a few of the things that they're doing, because I think what they're doing is very, very exciting and top class. On top of the multi-sig stuff, obviously Caravan is a software that Unchained uses in its own products, specifically its Vault product. If you want to enter in a multi-sig quorum where Unchained will be there to sign a transaction if you want them to, they can be one key in a 2 or 3 setup. You can always move your UTXOs out of the vault by yourself, but if you're ever in a pinch, you don't have access to both of your hardware wallets. Unchained is there to be the second key in the 2 or 3 or M of M, whatever that threshold is for you. On top of that, they have their loan program. You can use Bitcoin as collateral to get US dollar liquidity, same day US dollar liquidity specifically. You put Bitcoin up as collateral, you get US dollars in your bank account. Friends don't let friends sell Bitcoin. And as we mentioned, Caravan's an open source tool that they're working on. They're working on other open source tools like Hermit, Slip39, and then they've got their blog series, which has Dhruv, Phil Geiger, Joe Kelly, and Parker Lewis putting out some incredible content. Parker's Gradually Then Suddenly is some incredible evergreen content that I send to anybody who's like, hey, I'm looking to learn about Bitcoin. Where should I get to? Boom. Go to Gradually Then Suddenly first. And to find Gradually Then Suddenly and all these products and open source tools that I just described, go to www.unchained-capital.com. That's www.unchained-capital.com. This episode is also brought to you by our good friends at the Cash App. You freaks already know all about them. They're helping us do many things. First of all, they're helping us stack sats, not sat stacks. You can stack sats. You can stack sats. You can receive sats, send sats, and sell sats if you so please. On top of that, they have Cash App Investing, which allows you to invest as little as $1 in your favorite stonk. If your favorite stonk's a little bit too expensive, you can't afford a full stonk, you can buy a sliver of a stonk as little as $1 via Cash App Investing. And because Cash App is either directly connected to your bank account or it is your bank account, because they just rolled out account numbers and routing numbers where you can literally use Cash App as your bank account. There's no 4 to 5 day waiting periods to invest in sats or to stack stonks. You can do it today because it's all connected. Cash App Investing is a subsidiary of Square and member SIPC. As always, use the code STACKINGSATS. That's one word, STACKINGSATS. You're going to get $10, and $10 is going to go to our good friends Al's Lacrosse. Not that dirtbag Al who started a podcast is trying to compete with me now. That dirtbag, the gall to use my platform and then come out and try to leverage it to start his own podcast. Actually, a very good podcast. He did an episode American Huddle this week. Yesterday. Thoroughly enjoyed it. But for the sake of this ad read, not that dirtbag Al. We're talking about Owls Lacrosse in Chicago, a charity very near and dear to our hearts. Owls Lacrosse. Owls Lacrosse. Use the code StackingSats. Download the Cash App today and enjoy this episode. Long rip. I think you guys are going to like it. Daiquiri fueled ad read. I hope you guys like that one too. Take care.
You've had a dynamic where money's become freer than free.
If you talk about a Fed just gone nuts, all the central banks going nuts.
So it's all acting like safe haven.
I believe that in a world where central bankers are tripping over themselves to devalue their currency, Bitcoin wins. In the world of fiat currencies, Bitcoin is the victor.
I mean, that's part of the bull case for Bitcoin.
If you're not paying attention, you probably should be.
What is up, freaks? Welcome back to Tales from the Crypt, here for another edition of Rabbit Hole Recap. It's been a long week, Matt. I'm tired, man.
I've been inordinately tired lately. I think it's the restlessness of everything that's going on, just like constant. I feel like I'm constantly on alert, you know?
Yeah, I know. We are in the transition of trying to get our son to sleep throughout the night, and it's led to some early mornings for me. I had a 4:30 to 6 a.m. shift this morning. I'm pretty groggy right now.
I've been waking up at like 6:30 every day, like a productive beast. Just trying to keep my schedule, but I feel for you. I'm glad I don't have that on my plate right now. Yeah,
been waking up early too. One thing I have been doing more and better of this week particularly is taking showers the moment I wake up. I was slacking there for a couple weeks of quarantine, just waking up and not showering right away and letting that bleed into the late afternoon.
Yeah, shower cracks you into mode. At least it does for me.
No, it really does. It really does. It's important. It's important to stay clean.
Hygiene.
Showers are important. Hygiene's important. We got some shout outs. We'll start with some shout outs today. Just a riff. We don't have a long list at all. Pretty short, actually.
Yeah, it's going to be a short and sweet app for you freaks.
Who knows? Maybe we'll drift into other things. We have plenty. I actually missed a shout out last week, Monday, because PTC Pay's latest upgrade is sort of messed up their invoicing sort of flow, and then it's messed up in the Excel sheet, the CSV file they provide as well. So some of those the shout out that I missed on Monday was at the bottom of the Excel sheet. I did not know to look for it until yesterday, so we're gonna get to that. That shout out particularly was for you, Matt. Thank you for creating a graphene flash boot tutorial that even a tech buffoon like me could understand. Keep up the good work. Love, Matt_S.
Fuck yes.
Another Matt. I
dig the name too. I'm glad you got graphene up and running. It's more important now than ever before.
Yeah, you. I was made aware of a graphene. What's the other wood? Get into it.
Copperhead.
Copperhead, that's what it is, not wood.
Dude,
I didn't know there was beef in the.
We were having a conversation about how I always get dragged into all this different fucking drama, and I told you about the latest piece of drama I'm trying to avoid, and you just bring it right up on the pod.
You know what? We don't have a lot to talk about today. We gotta create some drama. You know. Nah, I never want to be a drama creator, just create drama. But you always do get dragged in the middle, and I think you handle it very well.
Thank you. I try to handle drama as best as possible whenever I come across it. With this, I'm still trying to get my bearings. It's kind of caught me off guard. But the short and sweet is that it was all the same project. And it appears the Copperhead guys wanted to go a more commercial route. And Daniel McKay, who is the lead at Graphene, wanted to go the more open source route, non-commercial, flash it yourself. With Copperhead, you buy it from a partner, they like have corporate contracts and stuff where corporations like buy a bunch of phones from them, and it comes with like professional support. What with graphene, you just flash it, like an end user does, and just the code is out there. So there's all these legal disputes that are happening. They're former business partners. So I don't want to comment too much here. I just resent you a little bit for bringing it up, and we will see as I look into it more. I will report back. But I have been loving using graphene, which from my understanding is basically, if you're running Copperhead or you're running graphene, it's like 99% the same. So I have not run Copperhead yet. I have spoke to the lead at Copperhead, and he seems like a good dude. So we'll see. But so I might be able to get my hands on that OS, and I'll play around with that as well.
Yeah. Sorry for bringing that up. We got extended a little bit. We got a nice minute out of that. Thanks for that minute.
You just fucking threw me right under the bus with that one.
Actually, one of these shout outs is going to spark an interesting conversation, I think. The next shout out is Bitcoin is an unstoppable machine that is designed to run in perpetuity based on free market incentives. Watching governments and its citizens react to it is going to be the most interesting show on earth. Watch the ratings, viewers increase as people come to this realization. FF2K, our good friend Fartface 2000.
Love you, Fartface.
I love you too, Fartface. My favorite name on Twitter. And sorry if like my reading of this is staggered. It's like in an Excel format, and some of the characters get all mixed up when it translates to Excel from our shout out page. And here's the last shout out. It's not even a shout out, it's a question. When will Tether flip in Ripple? Will it happen? When will it happen?
That's such a ridiculous shout out. Is that anonymous?
Yep, it's anonymous.
Yeah, I guess I appreciate you, freak, but I'm glad you left it off, so I didn't think any less of you. Doesn't really matter. It's apples and oranges. One's an illiquid shitcoin, and the other is a trusted third-party regulation-breaking stablecoin.
Yeah. What are the market? I don't even know where they're at. They're even close to each other right now.
I was about to check coin market cap, and that's why I got angry at the freak who submitted it. Do you think it was intentionally designed to trigger us? They're kind of close. Tether's at 6.2 bill, and XRP is at 8.5.
I can see it happening sooner rather than later. Stablecoin growth has been pretty robust in the last few months, right?
Yeah,
it's around 9 billion all in.
Ripple is an illiquid shitcoin that doesn't fucking die. So,
Well, that brings up another point. Did you see that we don't have this on the well, not that we would in a regular episode, but now that Ripple's on top of mind. Did you see they're going to sue people on YouTube for like false advertising or something like that?
For like scams and shit, right?
Which
is ironic.
It's ironic.
Yeah.
That a scam's going after scams.
Already too much
Ripple
conversation for a single episode.
It's true. This is true.
I'm going to
Ripple's a shitcoin.
With Tether is going to flip in Ripple in the next 5 weeks. And then Ripple will overtake Tether again over the next 3 months after that. And those are just completely arbitrary. But I felt like giving you an answer. I don't know. Never doubt Ripple's ability to fucking pump for no fucking reason whatsoever. Like, fuck that shit. That was like the most infuriating fucking shitcoin. Besides,
one thing you have to take into consideration. One thing you have to take into consideration is what's his fucking name? Not XRP. He's owned Mt. Gox originally. He's stellar.
Jed McCaleb.
That clause hit where he can sell more than he was previously able to. So he's able to liquidate I think 50 million worth of Ripple a month or something like that.
I don't know the exact number.
Which is that should tell you exactly why Ripple's a shitcoin. Like he has a contract which stipulates when he can and cannot sell X amount of Ripple, and beyond that,
Ripple Labs auto dumps Ripple every month themselves too.
We're the first 36,000 blocks, Ripple fans.
Too much Ripple conversation.
All right,
Life is short. This is a waste of time.
It's a good opportunity to remind folks not to fall for unit bias. And I mean, you shouldn't be falling for anything outside of Bitcoin at this point if you've been listening to this podcast. But if you're out there and you're like still like, oh my god, but it's cheap, it's unit bias.
Well, you can fall for unit bias. Sats are cheaper than Ripples.
This is true. This is very true.
If you're gonna fall for unit bias, do it properly.
All right, we're gonna transition this into something dope that we were just demoed a couple hours ago. Disclaimer: sponsor the show.
Game
Very
changer.
happy to sponsor the show. Game changer. So Unchained Capital is coming out with a new version of Caravan, an updated version of Caravan, and instead of only allowing Caravan users to upload and create single address multi-sig quorums, they're going to allow you to dump XPubs into multi-sig quorums.
You get HD
so now
wallets.
you get HD wallets, and you can create a multi-sig quorum and then use multiple addresses, so you're not just sending UTXOs to the same one address.
It used to
so
be
it's pretty big.
Yeah, it used to be a pain in the ass. Well, it still is a pain in the ass to use multiple addresses with Caravan. Caravan's super easy with multi-sig otherwise. And this new update that's coming up switches that. It makes it super easy to use multiple addresses in the same wallet. And the interface is really slick, straightforward. It's still the same thing where you have the choice of your own node or the blockstream.info API. It just looks really great. I think you freaks are going to dig it. All open source.
Yeah. No, this is, and that's one thing, one cool little feature that's going to come with it too is the ability to test a number of things before you even put money or UTXOs into a multi-sig quorum. So you're going to be able to use your hardware wallets to make sure they're going to function the way in which you expect them to function when you start sending UTXOs and checking redeem scripts and stuff like that. And like through the conversation, it became apparent that like they're trying to create, I think Drew said this, standards both vertically and horizontally. So other hardware manufacturers can sort of use the test suites that they've set up to test their stuff before they push new updates to make sure they won't break anything. Because that's one thing that was in the air with Trezor's last update is they pushed something and it broke something in the HWI specs, or not in the HWI specs, but it made some HWI setups incompatible.
Integration.
This
is basically the first step towards that holy grail. This is basically, we're basically there, the holy grail that we've been discussing this whole time, which is very easy to use, GUI based, no command line, ability for a user to create a multi-sig wallet with different hardware from different manufacturers without a trusted third party. So they could already easily do it with Unchained's collaborative custody product and with Casa's multi-sig. But in both those cases, you have the trusted third party, either Unchained or Casa, that knows your balances, knows your transactions. With this, you can go completely self-sovereign, and they don't have any information on you. You could either control all the keys, put them in different places, or you can have a friend do it. When we did the video with Keep It Simple Bitcoin and American HODL, when I did their multi-sig bet with them, we pasted the public key back and forth, their public keys, and then I pulled mine from the Trezor I was using. So this is going to also, I think Cold Card support's coming soon. They don't have it yet, so right now it's Trezor and Ledger. But that idea that you can just copy and text of the other person's public key is really, it's just a very convenient flow, I think, because you can have someone. I could have a buddy that's in San Francisco, and he could just signal me his pub key, and I could signal him the 3 other pub keys, and then we never actually have to bring the hardware to the same place. You know, you can do it all through like an encrypted side channel, the encrypted message, in this case Signal.
Yeah, it's shout out to Unchained. I mean, it's really, like Matt said, the design is really sleek. It's really straightforward. You have the ability to set up watch addresses. Again, like Matt said,
full
you can
coin
connect it to your own
control,
full node, full coin control, which is important. And that one thing we learned actually too is that labeling in multi-sig throws a wrench in things, because everybody's could label certain UTXOs differently across the multi-sig quorum.
Yeah, basically.
Unless you have
labels should be user specific. If me and Marty were sharing the Tales from the Crypt multi-sig, we might be labeling things differently. I might label it dipshit. He might label it American HODL. Like it depends on who's labeling the transaction.
Was that a Freudian slip there? Yeah.
No, it was an intentional dig. It was an intentional dig. You should have just kept going with the flow.
So be on the lookout for that. They're hoping to get it pushed live next week. They're doing some QA right now. Be on the lookout for it. Again, things are getting easier. Things are getting better. Anybody's telling you that Bitcoiners don't innovate or that Bitcoin's not getting any better is clueless at this point.
Yeah, I think this is it's a really big deal. Not to oversell it or overhype it. I mean, look, I thought Caravan was a big deal with the mass already, but with the massive caveat that it was really hard not to reuse addresses, which is that is a very big caveat. But yeah, it's so much easier than Electrum. Electrum is, you can do this stuff with Electrum right now, but it's just a pain in the ass in my opinion. It's got too many, there's too many moving pieces, and it's easier to run Electrum server now than it ever was before, but just that alone, makes it.
That's one thing I'm happy Will Cole said too when we were doing the demo, was that their mindset with Caravan is to add as little as is needed, to not confuse the user with too many functionalities, and then you sort of increase the ability for a user to mess something up. So the design focus on Caravan is, all right, what can we add? What's the minimum amount of features that we can add that would not deprecate the overall experience? And I think they've done a great job of that, going from single address and now to a full XPub key that you can dump in there. And that's actually talking about following up on and listening to users. That's when Drew first walked me through Caravan, I think a year and a half ago. That was my big question was, why can't I just dump an XPub in here? And they've made that possible.
Yeah.
So
the other thing to mention here is multi-sig is a little bit more complicated than, it's got more moving parts than single sig, and you have to keep copies of your pub keys, and you have to keep your redeem script, and you have to know your derivation paths. So that adds an additional hurdle. It's not like you're just writing down the seed somewhere and keeping that safe. In this case, I mean, you should know the derivation path, even if you do single sig, but at least for all the big implementations, they're relatively known. Well, what is Rodolfo's site? Wallets Recovery? Is it walletsrecovery.org?
yes, I believe so.
It's something
Wallet
like that.
Recovery or Wallets Recovery. Let me check.
While Marty's checking that, what they decided to do is they basically give you a JSON config file, and that JSON file, when you boot it up, the actual application is stateless, but it keeps all that necessary information. So it keeps the pub keys, it keeps the redeem script, and all the derivation paths. So you can just back up that JSON file.
Yeah, it's walletsrecovery.org.
There you go.
Plural.
So
Wallets,
that shows
plural.
that website shows all the common derivation paths for the big wallets.
Yeah. And again, like I said, with the testing and other, and I've said in the past, I mean, that's the whole reason that walletsrecovery.org exists too, is just to try to help create better standards around this stuff, multi-sig, BIP32, and PSBT. It's sort of been Wild West for the first 11 years, and now you slowly have people within the industry collaborating and coalescing around standards, and the libraries that Unchained made for the Caravan are going to be open source, obviously, always have been. And that's one thing Drew actually also said on the call that he's very excited to see, is that they're having outside contributors begin contributing to Caravan outside the Unchained team. So he's happy to get this pushed live so that more people can start contributing to that code base as well. Speaking of code bases, our good friends at MyNode have the newest version 0.2.03. I'm on the GitHub page here, and it's just got the new version. It's got new release notes.
I had the changelog. They added remote support for Tor v2 and v3. And then the big one was they added an option to enable key send. So you can just, if you enable that, then people can send you payments. You can send them payments if they have it enabled with just their pub key. You don't need an invoice. As we discussed earlier, our last episode, you need that to use a service like Juggernaut, the messaging service, the messaging project. It's not really a service because it goes through Lightning, and everything is local and encrypted by John Cantrell, Juggernaut. So that's good to
Juggernaut.
see. And also Dojo, it says Dojo uses Electrum Server now, but I thought it did in the last release. So I'm not positive about that. But either way, it definitely uses Electrum Server now instead of using just straight Bitcoin D, which is better.
Hell yeah. And last but not least on the Bitcoin stuff, so again, we went over a lot on Monday. We had a good recording with Openoms. Who's an incredible Bitcoiner earlier this afternoon. Matt sat down with him. Make sure you look out for that next week. But he was mentioning Stefan Livera. The big topic on that episode was Join Market Cap, and Stefan Livera sat down with Chris Belcher from Join Market Cap. Why am I saying Join Market Cap? Join Market.
Join Market Cap. Just such a perversion. Join Market Cap Crypto.
Join Market Cap Crypto.
Every episode with Chris Belcher is a must listen. So I haven't listened to this one yet, but I'm excited to listen to it. Openoms was great. We also sat down with Amiti, and she was fantastic. She just she inspired me so much. So I think people will really like that one too.
No, both of them inspire me, man. Because it's like, again, talking about people hating on Bitcoin. Somebody's making a margarita downstairs. I'm sorry if you freaks can hear that. I don't know what's going on here.
Is that in your home or is that a neighbor?
That's in my home.
Fuck yes. I support it. I think the freaks are on board.
It's, again, makes me very bullish to see people like Amiti and Openoms who have basically been contributing code to either Bitcoin Core, which Amiti is doing, or apps being built and leveraging Bitcoin, which is what Openoms has been doing. I think Openoms has been doing a little bit longer than Amiti. But still both relatively new since the last bull run, and they're contributing very considerably. I mean, Amiti is working at the P2P network. Bitcoin Core project right now is rebroadcasting and trying to work out some privacy kinks that currently exist when you try to rebroadcast a transaction. She's trying to make it so the user doesn't have to initiate that, and a node will just recognize that a transaction may need to be rebroadcast, and it'll do it automatically, so you don't have to sort of dox where you're sending that from again. And then Openoms is just working on dope hardware and software, particularly, I mean, at least from what I glean, focused on privacy for Bitcoiners.
They're both young. They're both enthusiastic. They both love Bitcoin. Fuck yes. I fucking love it. My only complaint is, God damn, I just want to do these fucking things in person. I'm done with, the Zoomification of social interaction, where just everything is fucking done over Zoom.
They're putting us in the pods, Matt. They're putting us in the goddamn pods.
But there was one other thing I want to say. Oh, yeah. And I mean, you've just been I don't really feel bad that this is a short one because we had RHR on Monday. And then you just been pumping them out. You had Epsilon Theory, you had Ben Hunt on, you had Zuby on. I haven't listened to Zuby yet. I listened to the Ben Hunt one. Feels like he bent the knee a little bit, so I appreciate
He's
that.
coming around. He's coming around.
Yeah,
he's coming around.
Yeah, we got to set him up with the Bitcoin wallet, like you said at the end. So yeah, he was definitely less abrasive about it this time. So I think it was a short but sweet episode.
Zuby episode is really good too. That was one of my favorite conversations to date, just because it was a good break away from Bitcoin. We talked a little bit about Bitcoin. We're just talking about like how people let others they do not know or have not ever met get under their skin and dictate their happiness. And I think the underlying message of the Zuby episode is you are in control of your own success and your own happiness, and if you let other people dictate that, then you are living life in a bad way. And then we talked about health as well. We talked about Bitcoin as well, and Zuby's actually not as bullish as Bitcoin on Bitcoin as we are. He seems to believe that Bitcoin has a upside limit to how much it can take over the world, and I think he didn't say it outright, but agrees with what I think Bitcoin's biggest hurdle would be in the future, which is apathy. But I've been becoming less concerned about apathy because I think the market forces are going to basically force Bitcoin on the world whether they like it or not.
Zuby, Bitcoin is designed to pump forever. Get it through your head.
He made good points. Like how, that's one thing we have to consider. Like how, I mean, we do talk about it every once in a while, but like how big of a bubble are we in? Can we really expect the masses to learn about Bitcoin and adopt it? Or do we even need them? Number two. So can they learn? Number one, do we need them to learn for Bitcoin to be as successful as we think it will be?
The masses have no idea how regular money works. They have no idea how the internet works. They know no idea how email works. They have no idea how their phone works. They have no idea how cars work. They have no idea how planes work. Like, it's a ridiculous standard to hold Bitcoin to. People will have varying understandings of Bitcoin, but pretty much everyone will be either using it or using some kind of derivative of it.
I agree. But it's always good to hear those dissenting views where it's like, I
haven't even listened to the episode, but I wholeheartedly disagree with him.
I mean, he's a very interesting dude. I was happy to have a conversation with him.
He's a Bitcoiner though, right? He owns Bitcoin.
He's down for the cause. He just thinks it has some upside limit because he doesn't
burn him at the stake.
He thinks people will. He thinks it'll be hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think he said. Don't quote me on that. But.
Okay, well, I'm fine with that. I'm cool. If that's the upper limit, cool, whatever.
Yeah. And then I'm actually going on Block Digest tomorrow. I'm very excited for that.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah.
You're going into the Dragon's Den.
Going into Shinobi's world. I'm very excited for that.
If you freaks haven't listened to my episode when I went on, you should go give it a listen.
It was a very good episode. Very, you got dragged in. Like we were talking about in the beginning of the episode.
I'm a sucker for the drama. I try and keep myself as objective as possible for you freaks. And I appreciate you when you put me in my place.
Hey, that's the part of staying humble, right?
That's why you got to keep repeating it to yourself.
I was DMing Shinobi. We got to get him on here. It's going to happen at some point in the near future. It's long overdue.
There was one other thing I wanted to say on the Bitcoin stuff. I don't know. If Bitcoin Twitter right now feels like bear market Bitcoin Twitter, and I think it's like restlessness of the pandemic and like just general anxiety. People don't have their jobs and stuff like that. People are losing loved ones. So just remember what's important. Like, life's short. Don't fuck around. Like, all this like bullshit Twitter drama that just goes away after a couple days, like, is not worth your time. It's just not something to get riled up about. It's not something to get triggered about. And, in that case, being triggered is a sign of weakness. So just be aware. Be aware.
Be aware. And it would be remiss of us if we did not go to Clark Moody's Bitcoin dashboard. People may be bearish on Twitter, but we had a bullish day. We had a little pop today. We're at $7,570. Nice little round number there on Clark's dashboard. Percentage of Tor capacity within the Lightning Network is bumped up by 0.2% to 42.4%. There are 1,992 Tor nodes on the network. We are currently 1,644 blocks away from the next retarget, which is scheduled to be on May 4th. And that's right now scheduled to be about negative, a downward difficulty adjustment by 0.4%. And the halving is in 2,652 blocks, freaks. We're getting closer. Scheduled, according to Clark's dashboard, on May 11th. Is it priced in yet, Matt?
The halving? Of course.
Yeah.
The markets are completely efficient. They're just able to price in this completely immature asset in its adoption phase just perfectly. That's why you don't see much volatility in Bitcoin.
Ooh, that's actually something to mention. FTX, they came out with a Bitcoin volatility index today. That's a pretty big deal, actually. It's a big financial product for the Bitcoin world.
They also came out with an oil product.
Did they?
Yeah. Whenever they can make a cent, they fucking do it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting the Bitcoin volatility index. That's actually interesting, though. I think that's a good... I mean, who knows how much volume it has or will amass on that exchange, particularly in near to medium term. But having a volatility index for Bitcoin is a unique derivative. That is an interesting way to get exposure to Bitcoin without owning it outright.
Stay humble, stack sats.
Yes, obviously. But you could bet on volatility. It could go either way. Right? The volatility would increase up or down.
Yeah, you can use it as like a hedge mechanism.
Yeah.
It's an interesting measure to watch, just like the volatility index. But that doesn't, you don't have to trade it to do that. But yeah, anyway, on that note, did you see Tone Vase is charging $3,000 for his options trading class?
I saw a meme about it. I didn't actually see that he was doing that.
I wanted to announce.
Did we get a Hammer 9 today?
My trading strategy is going to outperform his options trading. Anything you can learn in that $3,000 class, I can outperform that with two simple tricks. And it's going to cost you $5,000. And once you send it to me, I will send you a message back, and it'll just say "Stay humble, stack sats." That's it.
That's going to cost $5,000?
Yeah, I mean, I just told you what it was, so you don't have to send me the money. But it's worth if his options trading class is worth $3,000, that advice is worth at least $5,000. That advice is worth a Bitcoin.
Yeah, it freaks if you're listening out there and you don't have a finance background and you particularly don't have a trading background and you think you're going to waltz into the Bitcoin markets and trade options profitably. Is it just Bitcoin options?
I imagine
or is it just options in general?
I imagine it's Bitcoin options.
You're not gonna fare well.
I think if you're the type of person to spend $3,000 on that course, you're fucked. There's no way. I don't know. I think even that 1% of traders that are good at, that are able to make money off of trading, aren't the same type of people that pay $3,000 for that course. So
obviously,
if you're thinking about doing it, you probably shouldn't do it.
And then trading options, I mean, it's just infinitely harder than trading the spot price. You get margin and future prices involved. Like, it's
lack of liquidity right now.
Yeah.
Just stay humble, motherfucker.
Just stacks. I've touched
the stove. I don't care. Do what you want.
I've increased my God, I always fuck this up. My sat stacking to daily, just as like a little experiment, and been very happy. It's been cool to wake up, roll over,
rip
stack
a piss.
sats, rip a piss, stack some sats. Yeah, 430 stack is an interesting one, especially when you got a screaming baby in your face.
The other thing is Evan Van Ness, the ETH influencer.
E 2.0 this summer. Is it this summer?
He deleted his tweet that he said he's recommended putting all your life savings into DeFi. So what does that mean? Why'd you delete your tweet?
Maybe it's save face after that one DeFi app got
yeah, maybe because it's
murked.
horrible fucking advice. And it's not even DeFi. It's just Fi.
Yeah. There's admin keys. We've talked about this too. And like the DeFi biggest use case right now is fucking stable coins. And Matt and I said it earlier today in a private conversation, or I said it too, Matt. Like the whole reason Bitcoin was created was to replace what the stable coins are pegged to. Like, yeah, have fun with your stable coins, tossing them around to each other. Like, it doesn't make any sense why you would like be pumping that as a killer use case of a technology that's meant to replace that. Maybe I'm dumb.
Yeah,
but
maybe you're just an idiot.
Was that a dig?
Okay, Marty, we're 35 minutes in. We're out of Bitcoin topics. What do you want to talk about?
YouTube CEO coming out. I'm sorry, freaks. I've been a little angry in the bent recently. Been getting a little aggressive in the bent. Maybe it's a combination of the quarantine, the forced quarantines, going stir crazy. I'm in my father-in-law's bedroom recording this.
It's a nice bedroom.
It's my new office, and it's like...
It's just weird that he lays in bed in the room while you record. It's just strange.
Yeah. Robert, shut the hell up back there. But, no, yeah, I mean... So two things pissed me off this week particularly that I wrote about, and I said it had very strong words. And one was the Harvard anti-homeschooling private summit that's going on this summer, where some thought leaders within Harvard's halls are trying to convince people that, trying to convince the government, I think, is their goal, that homeschooling should be outlawed for the safety of children. And one of the dudes leading that summit, that conference, whatever it is, a closed-door conference, has said in the past that children are not, or parents do not have control of their children. Children, at the end of the day, are assets of the state. He basically said that in a roundabout way. And so that's weird to me. Like, it seems like...
That's two different people, right? There was a Harvard person, and then who was the second person that said assets of the state?
No, they were both Harvard. The one, that dude who said assets of the state was a Harvard law professor.
A woman,
and
right?
Then no, that was a dude. The woman wrote the article basically saying we should preemptively outlaw homeschooling because it puts children at danger, at risk. And what was funny is the cartoon of that article. It was in like Harvard Review magazine or something like that. It had a house that was made up of books on the side. One of the books said arithmetic, and it was spelled wrong. Like they spelled arithmetic.
It was intentionally,
People at
right?
Harvard. No, that's what they said.
It wasn't like a dig. It wasn't a dig at like, if your home is homeschooled, then you spell arithmetic wrong.
That's what some people were saying in the comments, but then if you go back and look at it, they fixed it in the article.
So what idiots! They should have owned it. They should have owned it and been like, "That was like a classy dig."
Yeah.
Or not classy, but just a creative dig.
Yeah. And then, yeah, the law professor came out, was basically like, children are assets of the state. Their parents, at the end of the day, do not control them or basically have ownership over them. Which I don't think I have ownership over my son, but my son is my son.
I mean, you kind of do.
Nothing to.
Don't you legally have? You legally have ownership, don't you?
I think the legal term would be guardianship.
Yeah, I mean, he's not your property. You can't
Yeah, I'm not gonna throw him into the coal mines and tell him to start working.
Just a weird thing to. Okay, yeah.
He will be mowing lawns very early on.
What's the difference, Marty? What's the difference? It's a slippery slope.
The difference is the state does not have priority over the possession of my son. And I don't.
No, yeah,
this is weird.
Look, I mean, I don't think that you have to be a genius to see that they have, obviously a ridiculous bias, right? It's like the non-homeschoolers saying not to homeschool, right? Like, of course they believe that, right? That's, they work in that's the profession they work. They work in higher education at prestigious universities. Of course they want to defend their...
Well, it's not even defending private and public education outside of homeschooling. It's attacking homeschooling.
No, yeah. I'm not trying to diminish that. No, I agree. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is I feel like this is more of a fuck off thing than a triggered thing. Like, they're not going to be able to do anything about it. Like, there's no way they're banning homeschooling or any, not in America.
I agree, but they want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, people want it. Assholes want to do a lot of things. It's like, can they execute? Then you have to start worrying about it.
They would if they could.
But they can't. The weird thing. I don't think they can. I think there's no political will there.
I hope not. They're trying to, though. They have this closed door. So I got pissed off at that. That was Tuesday. What is it, Thursday? Yeah. Then yesterday I got pissed off at YouTube CEO coming out basically saying they're going to censor and remove any content in relation to the coronavirus that is not in line with what the World Health Organization is currently putting out there. And
it was even worse than that. She was like, that anything that is not true, and we're using the WHO as our guideline. So not only did she say they're using the WHO on the guidelines, she implicitly stated that everything the WHO says should be treated as fact, right? Should be treated as the baseline, which is even worse. And see, so this situation is a situation where I think it's completely reasonable to get triggered because they can and are executing this strategy right now, right? Like people are getting censored based off of this plan, and they have unilateral power, right? And I mean, the real solution, like, everyone should be angry about this, but the real solution is to move away from YouTube, right?
Yeah, but how do you do that? Are we going BitChute? Vimeo?
I'm not sure if like a decentralized option is really, feasible or necessary in this situation. What we need is more competition among centralized providers, right? And then you basically end up syndicating your content across multiple centralized providers instead of just having one gatekeeper in YouTube. It seems like, at least for the near future, that's basically the trade-off you have to make. And I mean, we saw BTC Sessions, he got banned off of YouTube for a little bit. It looks like they restored it. But now he's using software that broadcasts it on like 6 different platforms, including Twitch and Twitter. And he's noticed, and YouTube still, because he got restored. And he noticed that on Twitter he gets way more views than if it was on YouTube. And I don't, that doesn't surprise me. We have great, the Bitcoin Twitter community is fucking super active. But the question is, motherfucker's gonna get his Twitter account banned at some point. Like, we all are. Like, that is something that everyone should know is going to happen eventually. So he's just putting more eggs in that basket. But it's good that he's also broadcasting it out to all these different things, because his users will know to be able to go and look and move around. And I think it's just going to become a commonplace thing that as YouTube censors more, people will be more accustomed to not just check YouTube.
Yeah, but John Seth's written about this actually pretty eloquently. Like, it's hard to create a competitor to YouTube these days just because of the pure hosting costs that come with video, particularly.
Yeah, like that's why we can self-host, right? We can self-host our podcast. That's why I love podcasting. People don't appreciate how censorship resistant podcasting is. We can hit multiple platforms, all through RSS feeds. We can self-host it. We can give you a download file that has everything we've ever done that's a reasonable size to download. But video streaming, especially HD video and live streaming, is insane bandwidth hit, and it's hard. It's hard to compete with someone at scale of YouTube.
Yeah.
But you do it. I think what we see happen is we see a move to like a Patreon-esque system. Patreon-esque systems. Some that have Bitcoin integration, hopefully, and some that are just straight fiat rails that incorporate the whole video streaming into that thing, right? Because like what Patreon's pulling 10%. We like talked about this in the past. I think they pulled 10% from their clients. I don't know creators.
I don't know the exact number off the top of my head.
But they're pulling it from their creators, right? From the amount of money they raise. So maybe there's something there in that kind of model. But yeah, it's hard to compete with these centralized massive behemoth companies just whenever bandwidth comes into question.
Yeah, it's but what does that say? Let's get back to like what's actually happening. That Susan Wojcicki or whatever her name is saying that they're going to remove content that isn't truth. Number one, who is to determine the truth and isn't in line with the World Health Organization? Like, let's go through what we've done it. We did it with Alex Gladstein a couple of weeks ago, but let's refresh your memories. No human-to-human contact. Masks don't help.
No, masks are worse.
Yeah, masks are worse.
Then masks
even
don't
worse
help.
Than don't help. Then masks don't help. Travel bans aren't effective.
Taiwan's in China.
Taiwan is part of China. Like, what is going on? Like, what? Like, how could any rational human being?
Chinese death numbers have flatlined. They just completely flatlined. They did a miracle.
Like,
over
what
there.
what is YouTube doing? Like, hyping up the World Health Organization. Like, how either? So there's one of two options. She's either insanely incompetent or insanely corrupt.
No, I think I'm not trying to defend these companies, but I've said the same about Twitter, and I think they've dug themselves into a little bit of a hole where they're being held liable for the content on their platforms, which is the last thing they wanted. I forget what the clause is, but it's the clause that the Earn It Act is trying to remove, which basically dictated that if you have an online platform, you're not responsible for content created by the users, which was huge for the internet to get to the point where it is today in America. Because that's ridiculous that if someone tweets out something that the company is held liable. But what happened is all these companies, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, it's Google, but all those companies, Instagram, they started using algorithms to show you your timeline, to show you next video and stuff.
Wait. Let's back up.
No, one second. So once they switched to the algorithms, they became liable for the content, right? Why is this content getting shown? When I click a video, why is the next video whatever video it is? They became liable for that content. And now they're trying to shirk that responsibility by putting it on some other organization, right? By saying, don't hold YouTube live. We're just going by WHO's standards. Like that's what I think it is. And I think like the way you solve something like that is you put in the ability for multiple moderation choices. So you can choose, do I want WHO doing it? Do I want this organization doing it? Do I want this organization doing it? And you can like pick and choose, or do I want no moderation? And you choose which one you want. As far as a centralized platform goes, I feel like that could be like a nice middle ground.
Just YouTube. Just go to what you were doing originally. Who fucking cares? And again, going back, like if they're going by the guidelines, they want to remove things that are untruthful. Like, why would you ever go by the World Health Organization's guidelines when they've been very untruthful and have been?
But then, like, which organization do they choose?
Exactly. That's the whole point. Like, you don't know. Like, let people decide for themselves. Like, that's the point of the Bent articles that I was writing earlier this week. You know what? I'm going against the homeschoolers again, too. These people hate you. They don't think you can critically think. They don't think you can take care of your children. They don't think you can make decisions for yourself. Like, they want to make the decisions for you. And that's becoming glaringly obvious.
This is the exact opposite with YouTube. Like, YouTube can go fuck themselves with their censorship policies, right? YouTube's a centralized platform. There's no censorship resistance there. But they don't want to make the decision. They're being forced into a position to make these decisions. You know, if it was up to YouTube, they would have no moderation whatsoever. They make more money that way.
Did you watch that video?
They make more money that way.
Did you watch that video? She's not like, we just need to like give it to the World Health Organization. She's like, no, this is the authority on the matter, and we're only going to be pumping them because they're right and you're wrong. That was the tone.
That woman can go fuck herself. That woman can go fuck herself. But if you look at the incentives for these corporations, okay, Twitter doesn't want to ban anyone. Twitter would love bots to just run all through Twitter and boost engagement numbers, boost advertising dollar numbers, have crazy clickbait stories and stuff. The incentives line up for them to allow that. They put themselves in this position, though, where they can moderate. And because they can moderate, they're expected to moderate. And then all of a sudden you end up in this vague-ass situation where what is right and what is wrong, what should be removed, what shouldn't be removed.
Ding, 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 ding. Now we're getting to the point. Who are the people pushing these moderation practices on? Who's behind them? Who's invested in these platforms? Like how much... Who's providing the money? I know Twitter specifically has a lot of Saudi influence. Maybe a lot of China influence as well, YouTube as well.
All these platforms are American companies. The biggest influence they have is on the American side.
But there's other influences as well.
Of course.
I mean, you can't deny.
Of course.
I don't know, man. Again, maybe it's me going stir crazy during this quarantine. Maybe I haven't gotten enough fresh air last month and a half, but there's something like it seems like they're trying to erode our civil liberties, man.
With
Whether
Twitter,
it be the government via the CARES Act or the corporations via censorship, and they're picking like they don't think that you can critically think. I don't think it's monetary incentive. I just think they want to be the arbiters of truth and the gatekeepers of who's allowed to say what, when, and in what way.
I think every person in power between governments and private interests have realized that it's very easy to mobilize and control a population through social media. So it's a prime target. I think that everything except for video in terms of social media, we can switch to distributed alternatives relatively simply. Just things that you can move your data around, you can move your social graph around, you can't be censored easily. There's not a central power that can censor you in the first place. That's the real solution, right? With video, we're kind of fucked on the short term. Like there's no, that's just a scale issue. If you want HD video, it's gonna cost you.
We need Moore's law to extend itself.
Yeah, that's a waiting game. But then at that point, we'll probably be like, well, you could get the HD video in a censorship resistant way, but if you want like the full VR experience, then you have to trust Google or whoever is because it just moves
Facebook.
up. Like we could do right now, we could self-host standard definition, like low quality video.
It's weird times, man. Like, and again, as the numbers are rolling in, it's, the Cuomo came out today. It seems like a lot more people than previously thought have the antibodies for the virus. So the fatality rate is falling. And we didn't even touch on the unemployment rate. What was there? Another 6.25 million. It's up to 20.
We're up to 37 Bostons.
37 Bostons, dude.
None of the freaks called that out. I thought that was so clever. I have a bunch of friends from Boston, so it was really a dig on how small their population is compared to New York. That's what that dig was, and no one appreciated it.
Well, not even 37 Bostons. Just the top 10 cities in the U.S. combined. Like more than that is unemployed. That's insane.
I think 37 Boston strikes it home harder.
Yeah. I mean, 26.4 million people are unemployed right now.
That's insane.
Again,
That's just in America.
Just in America. Like, and what does this lead to? What does this lead to? Like, we're getting UBI instituted. They're instituting apps that dictate whether or don't dictate. They let us know when we're not 6 feet away from the closest person to us. They're creating apps that are going to track whether or not we've had the disease, who we've been around, whether or not we've been treated and recovered. I don't know, man. It seems like, again, we're getting Patriot Acted, and like, is it all justified? Like, is this whole is this economic, even the shutdown? Like, I'm like, when do people start going back to work?
So I'm torn on that. So the reason I'm torn on that is because I think if any government is going to shut down somewhere, it should be local. So, obviously that hasn't been the case. So I'm against that aspect. I'm also wholeheartedly against the idea of closing down beaches and parks and harassing mothers and stuff at parks. When the police aren't even wearing face masks, and their solution is to bring you to a holding cell where you're not going to be practicing social distancing. That's all ridiculous. The surveillance aspect, that's all fucking ridiculous. The pandemic, the virus seems like it's not as bad as we thought it could be at this point. Potentially. We might, maybe the lockdown worked, who knows? We'll find out. If it was a really bad pandemic, right? Let's say the death rate was like 3% or 4%. The problem I see is the massive inequality we have in this country, the systemic discrimination we have in this country, that you have a whole swath of people. What's the stat? It's like 10 people are worth the bottom 50% or something ridiculous, right? Those people, those waiters, those bartenders, those busboys, all those guys, they have no choice but to go to work. There's no this whole idea that, if you still think the lockdown should go on, but it gets lifted, then just stay home. Those people don't have that choice. They have to go. So, but where that falls down is there was no safety net, right? So like, if you're going to go that route, you have to make sure that these people are going to be able to pay their bills, pay their rent, pay their car payments, pay all their fucking expenses. And like, if you're going to go that route, you got to go full fucking hog. And like, that hasn't happened either. So now these people just don't have money. They can't afford basic items. And they can't work even if they wanted to work. So it's like the worst of every situation.
All right, we're about to go in. I just had a banana daiquiri delivered to me, and I gotta finish this. Enjoy this with you. Can we cheers?
Yeah, one sec. Let me pour some more non-daiquiri scotch.
So, and that's where we are right now. Like, what's going to be worse, the virus itself, or the reaction to the virus? Cheers.
We literally cheers the computer screen.
That was a loud noise. It wasn't margarita. It was a banana daiquiri. And so, safety's got a lot of shit earlier in the virus for saying it was overblown, that shutdowns were a little overblown. And now, like the last week, he's making some really good points. Like, what are the negative externalities of doing this massive shutdown across the country, across the world, to the global economy? Like, markets are very not fragile. I mean, some of them are fragile, but they're very complex organisms. And if you throw a wrench in this complex organism and basically stop it from operating for an extended period of time, you don't just flip a switch and have everything go back to normal. Like, the knockoff effects of not letting people work and collect paychecks is something I don't think we've been taking into consideration. It's something we can't even model out. Like, nothing. That's the interesting thing people haven't been modeling out is the adverse effects of the shutdown overall. And as data, and that's the thing that I wrote about this last week. I very big fan of overreacting initially because you don't know it's a foreign disease, it's a new disease, you don't know a new virus, you don't know how bad it is and how many people can kill overall. But as the data rolls in, it's becoming more obvious that it's only affecting certain people, comorbidities, and over a certain age range. You have to start letting people go to work unless you want to literally destroy markets, these complex systems.
I have 2 points. The first point is that it's impossible to make a principled decision here because of the situation we were in before this pandemic hit us. Okay, the situation we were in, partially because of our easy money, is that we were extremely vulnerable to this kind of situation. When you have a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck, when you have a lot of people leveraged up, when you have a lot of people that are desperate and have no choice, like you end up way more vulnerable to a pandemic. That's just how it is. And you know, like you see a place like Singapore where you have this massive wealth inequality, where you have these workers that are imported that aren't even citizens. And among the citizens, coronavirus hasn't really been a problem. But among the workers, that's where it's spread, right? And in America,
we're seeing that at the slaughterhouses.
Right, but in America, it's way larger. The number of people that are in that situation, while being in a better situation than Singaporean migrant workers, are there's just a large. We're a big ass country, right? So we were in a very vulnerable situation to begin with. The second thing I would say is, why aren't you back in New York City?
I'm not moving back. I plan on moving to Philly.
You're never going to go back to your apartment?
No, I'm going to go back. Yeah. I mean, I don't have to. I don't have to go back. It's so much cheaper where I am right now.
I mean, but you're paying your rent. You're paying your rent in Brooklyn.
Yeah, but I'm not paying for the goods outside of it. I'm not paying rent where I am now, so...
What I'm saying is, first of all, it's ridiculous to treat the whole country. This is where we come back to, like, local government should be choosing, right? But like this idea that like the lockdown is what's hurting restaurants right now in New York, like isn't true. Like I'm not going. It doesn't. The lockdown could be lifted tomorrow. De Blasio could come out and be like, there, you know, every restaurant can open. Like I'm not going to a restaurant.
I thought all we've been wanting to do is go to a bar.
Yeah, I want to. You know, I want to, but it's not the lockdown that's keeping me away from that, right? It's me not wanting to get coronavirus.
Well, that's, again, the point I'm trying to drive home here. As the data comes in, we've had fear at all-time highs in the last few months. As the data's coming in, it should help quell our fears. Like, oh, it's not as bad as we thought. And yeah, it's going to be a time process. It's going to be a process. And again, who knows? Who knows? Maybe the lockdown is what's effective. And again, look at what they do, not what they say. Like they lock us all in our homes, they put us in our pods, and then they bail out all the large corporations, and they're starving small businesses. And you're gonna have large businesses be able to basically gobble them up and create more centralization.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's not fucked up.
Who's this helping? Like they could have easily, like Chamath said, you want to help people out, take that money you're giving to the corporations that took stock buybacks and just give every American $5,000 a month.
It's about $1 trillion a month. Just give us $5,000 a month until you want to remove the lockdown. Like fuck the trickle down bullshit. Just fucking and people can spend it however they want to spend it. They can buy Bitcoin with it. They can buy Fortnite skins. They can order takeout food. They can pay their rent, whatever the fuck they want to spend it on. If you're going to do it anyway, if you're going to print that, and it's the easiest with very little overhead, no corruption, but that's why they're never going to do it. So I'm not saying that it's not fucked up.
Very, very little corruption. So how much corruption is being thrown at the system right now?
It's just all corruption. It's just straight fucking corruption and incompetence. But what I'm saying is, there's like nuance. There's nuance here, like everything else.
Yes.
And we're a big fucking country, and there's a lot of nuance here. Protesting is obviously an essential activity. They can go fuck themselves. Mass surveillance is completely unwarranted. The two biggest things we have going for us is masks and education. And at least they're advising people to wear masks right now. The supply isn't there yet. I just tried to get more masks in for nurses. They restricted them even more. That's why I thought that the Epsilon Theory episode was interesting. I kind of want to reach out to him and see how he's been able to get the KN95s out of China, because right now I'm not able to get any more, which fucking sucks because I have people that need them in New York right now. But masks and education, just people taking it seriously and just being aware of the situation, which wasn't the case pre-lockdown, especially in New York, was not the case at all. Like the restaurants are packed, the bars are packed, the subways are packed, everything was fucking packed. And masks, people wearing masks, and then we can start moving in the right direction here. But there is like absolutely no way. Maybe this is a V in equities, but for the real economy, there is absolutely no fucking way that we can just go from 37 Bostons worth of unemployment when we were only at 1 Boston worth of unemployment the last cycle, and just like turn that around. There's too much at stake here. There's too many people that are hurting really, really, really badly right now, and everything they do is just layered in corruption and incompetence.
I agree. And so that leads me to 2 points. Going back to one I made earlier, like, what are the cascading effects and negative externalities? Like, why didn't we think about this long and hard before we started doing this? There are obviously examples of countries that didn't do lockdowns. They had bottom-up lockdowns, like Sweden. People just decided not to congregate in large groups, go to movies, blah, blah, blah. Their economies are still running at a certain degree, and they have similar rates of contraction and fatality rates. What was the second point I was going to make?
But this was kind of bottom-ish up, our lockdown. I mean, it all started with the NBA canceling their season. That, to me, was when people started taking it seriously.
Right? Seeing that Jazz game, I'll never forget it. Like, them having the warm-up guy do like 3 songs and just be like, the game's canceled, you can all go home.
And then all the schools, like the big colleges, started doing it out of peer pressure. This was like before anyone really, like before governments started enforcing it. Then governments like jumped on hard.
Yeah. But what are the cascading effects? Like, how... I'm getting like worried. Like, are we going to see FEMA camps at Prospect Park? Because...
Well, we remember you calling that, Gladstein. We will call that out in about 5.5 months. He said 6 months. He said 6 months refugee camps in Prospect Park.
Like, I was thinking about this today. Like, what happens when it does open back up and you literally have 26... I mean, hopefully most of these people are just furloughed and like, their jobs are like, yo, just go file unemployment when everything gets back to snuff. You can come back here. But you got to imagine some people are not going to be able to go back to their old employer. And then the competition for the scarce jobs that will exist, that's going to create some weird times, man.
It depends how much longer this goes on for.
What do you think? Do you think we should start opening up earlier?
No, well, it depends. It depends what happens in Georgia that's opening up, in Vegas that's opening up, in Florida that's opening up. Do they have issues there? Like, one thing for sure is that dense public transit is a major spread factor. We have that in New York. Boston got hit decently hard. Boston has a far inferior subway system to us, but they do have one of the better ones in the country. DC has one, right? So like a lot of the places that had it, is the fact that you have to drive everywhere in Florida enough social distancing? That's a question that's yet to be seen. We will probably find out over the next 3 weeks.
that correlation isn't causation though. Chicago's probably right next to New York in a subway standpoint. Like, did Chicago get hit that hard? I don't think so.
Does Chicago have a good subway system?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, that's where I went to college. I use the subway every day. It's always packed, or at least it was when I was there. Like, I don't know, man. The herd mentality came in strong here, and people were so willing to just give up their civil liberties, and the fear, like that's the other, like the inherent skeptic in me is just like, all right, everybody's scared as shit. People are taking advantage of it, mainly the government and the corporations, to erode our civil liberties and then amass more wealth, or market share. It's probably better. It's hard to amass wealth when nobody's spending anything. Market share is the probably more apt term there. Again, I can't pinpoint it exactly, but I just got skepticism bells ringing in my head. Like something's going on here. I don't know. I could just be going crazy in quarantine, which may be the case.
I think that it doesn't, our government is super incompetent. Okay. This virus has so far all expectations of it have been less than what was expected, right? Yet
25 million dead at one point.
Exactly.
Dude.
Okay. In New York, where we're the hardest hit, but still way hit less, they were predicting 40,000 ICU beds or something. It's like 5,000 ICU beds, right? It's like way, way less. We still don't have, our police officers have one mask each. Our nurses are reusing masks, right? Everyone's reusing masks. Everything, all the PPE is Rodolfo's favorite word, favorite acronym. All the PPE is like being reused. They don't have enough of it, and we barely got hit, right? So imagine when they made this call, which a lot of people, they were so not prepared. Imagine if this was like actually like a really bad virus. Like imagine if the death rate was higher. Imagine if it was more contagious. Like that is, it could have been really bad.
All right, we got some more Welly and Watch shit here. I agree. Somewhat. But just now, reminder via Spotify, take a break. Here's some calming music to help you find your zen. What the fuck, dude? I'm throwing my phone out.
Well, I actually did have a theory. My Discover Weekly on Spotify has been way more uplifting lately. And
Spotify just reached out to me. It was like, yo, calm down, bro. You're getting too animated on this podcast. We can hear you.
Well, they might not hear you. They might just get your newsletter, Like one of the things that a lot of people, when they think like their phone hears them, which I'm not saying it might be absolutely the case that some of these devices are listening when they're saying they're not listening. You should just assume they are. But like if someone in your household like Googles something you talked about on Wi-Fi and you didn't Google it, it'll still show up on your ads. Like it'll still show up in your preferences and stuff. So there, a lot of times there's a tangential reason. But I do think Spotify, that is one theory that I will prescribe to, that I think Spotify is trying to make their playlist more uplifting during these times.
I've told my Spotify story before. They're definitely listening, or at least using geolocation. Went to a concert, and he left after the opener. Like didn't even stay for the main show. And that Monday, Discover Weekly, never heard of this band, some obscure band. The opener was on my Discover playlist for a song. I was like, what the fuck?
It was definitely Geo. It was definitely, or maybe credit card information if you bought it with a credit card.
My friend bought the tickets. Yeah. But, yeah. I don't know. I don't want to, again.
Look, I'm not trying to say, like, we shouldn't underestimate people in power's desire to increase that power every time they have an ability to. And when fear happens, that's when they fucking do it. And we're seeing them do that right now. But as with everything else, there is nuance here. And even for this virus, even if we agree that this virus wasn't as bad as we thought it was, we were grossly unfucking prepared for it. Even with a full lockdown, they're running at full lockdown and no one, way less projections than we expected, and they're still running out of shit.
Well, that says more to be about the preparedness, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's not about the seriousness of the virus, though.
No, I'm saying that's how you end up in a situation where someone who might not, necessarily be thinking from an element of corruptness or malintent needs to move us into a position of lockdown, right? Because we were so unprepared. You're willing to fucking trash the economy for the sake of buying us a couple weeks, right? Because when you reopen, you end up in the same situation anyway. So the whole idea is like, we're so fucking grossly unprepared that we're going to try and buy ourselves a month or so to get more, to basically steal all the masks from all the other countries, which is like what we've been doing. That was basically the strategy. It's like, we're so fucking unprepared, we'll delay it a month and we'll take all the masks for ourselves and then we'll be good.
Yeah. And then you get into more nuance. Like, it's maybe coming to light that ventilators probably do more harm, or maybe do more harm.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
In some instances. Yeah. That's like, so there's theories out there. And I actually saw a YouTube video of a doctor from NYU who was like, I've never seen this before. This isn't a pneumonia. This is some different type of disease, potentially a hypoxia that attacks the lungs. So it may be attacking the oxygen receptors of blood cells and not the lungs themselves. And ventilators may actually exacerbate the problem by overworking the lungs when they're vulnerable, when the blood cells are vulnerable. That's one thing I've heard. And speaking with doctors, they're beginning to come around like, oh, maybe that is the case. But also, like, to put it in context, these doctors are put in a very precarious situation when somebody's showing the signs that they are. Like, this stuff moves quickly and they got to make quick decisions. And it probably makes sense at the time to put them on a ventilator, not knowing, and again, this being a wholly foreign disease up to this point in time, virus, excuse me, it adds to the uncertainty of the whole situation where you don't even know how to treat it correctly, or you don't know if you are treating it correctly, and it's just fuck.
Look, I 100% believe in personal responsibility. I think everyone should have their own choice here. If it doesn't come down to that, it should be the local government. I just, I like I said, I think this whole Orwellian overreach is fucking bullshit. The idea that protesting is an essential activity is bullshit. That we can't go to parks and stuff like that, and that it's being policed to this extent that de Blasio has like his fucking snitch tip line.
Motherfucker.
I loved the protesting to that where they just sent him Nazi memes,
dick pics.
But like, it even for the non-corrupt, it's a difficult situation to be in, right? Like, there shouldn't be, like, what do you do with the public schools? What do you do with like all the government different programs? Like, should the Department of Buildings be running, during all of this? Should traffic court be running? Should all these different little intricacies? And it's mostly a symptom. We're put in this situation because our system was already vulnerable to it to begin with.
Exactly.
Right? So
exactly.
We can't just erase it all and be like, well, if we were already in a more localism focused society, we could handle it better. Yeah, like, obviously. But we weren't in that situation to begin with, so you end up in this super messy situation, and then they compound that confusion and that fear to further their end goals of controlling, to have more control, right? So there is nuance here. That's all I'm trying to get across.
No, I completely agree. I'm very happy you said that, because we can bring this back to Bitcoin, because this is what I hate when the Keynesians and the modern monetary theorists are like, how would Bitcoin fix this? It's like, well, in the first place, we wouldn't have gotten to this situation. Like, it wouldn't be such a precarious situation economically if we had been on a sound money standard in the couple decades leading up to it, and maybe even less. And that's a very good point too, because it highlights that, all right, if you want to fix this for the long term, medium to long term, when the dust settles, when the economy is somewhat up, back and running, and we're trying to figure out, all right, we fucked up, what do we do next? Bitcoin provides an exit. It is a system that is bereft of the controls that exist in our current system and the corruption that exists in our current system and the Orwellian nature of our current system that gives you an option to exit and start building a new system. It's not going to happen right away. It's not going to be perfect out of the box, but the option is there. You can start moving towards the system by exiting the current system, particularly the monetary system. I've been tweeting this out and writing it in the bent. I wrote it today. Fix the money and you fix the world. I truly believe that. The root of the ills in the world is the corruption of our monetary system. Yes, other things are corrupt. Other parts of the system are corrupt. But if you really want to enact systemic change, you need to fix the money first.
I 100% agree. I would also add that a more direct example is that as soon as people really, truly needed masks, they couldn't get them. Governments around the world increased their customs restrictions, their import-export restrictions. Right now, you cannot get unapproved masks out of China. The only way you can pay for masks to China, the only real way to pay for them is through Bitcoin. We're seeing similar measures applied to gold, not to the same extent. A lot of it just has to do with supply chain issues. But you can see in a world where someone truly needs gold, where that ability to physically settle, that idea where you're going to be able to send the gold around the world, that's the choke point. Bitcoin doesn't have that issue, right? It is not censor proof. It's censorship resistant, but it's way harder to enforce import-export controls when the way around it is a simple text message, especially when encryption exists. So you as long as you're able to send encrypted text, like enforcing that restriction is going to be very fucking difficult. And I don't think the world is truly priced in how massive that is of an advantage over gold.
It's all priced in, bro.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
All right, my daiquiri's done. Thank you for listening to my quarantine rant. And again, that's the thing that sucks about the situation. There's so much nuance into it, and it's so confusing, and it's so new, but it's like, I don't know, just innately, intuitively, I'm like, something's fucking afoot. Something's fucking afoot.
Definitely, I 100% agree that something's fucking afoot.
Yeah.
I agree with you with that. Anyway, I love you, freaks. Stay humble, stack sats.
Peace and love.